Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Tanvi Taneja. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Prime Minister Narendra Modi holds bilateral talks with Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, calling India-Canada ties extremely important. Leaders agree to appoint high commissioners in both nations. Prime Minister Narendra Modi holds productive meetings with world leaders on key global challenges, exchanges perspectives on a wide range of issues. Prime Minister Narendra Modi leaves for Croatia on the third leg of his three-nation visit, the first visit of an Indian Prime Minister to Croatia since 1991. Prime Minister Modi to hold bilateral talks with Croatian Prime Minister on issues of mutual interest. Iran and Israel trade deadly strikes for sixth day as the conflict continues to intensify. US President Donald Trump warns that the US patience is wearing thin, demands Iran's unconditional surrender. And amid the escalating situation in West Asia, US shuts embassy in Israel till Friday. Indian embassy in Tel Aviv issues travel advisory, issues helpline numbers for Indian citizens. Prime Minister Narendra Modi participated in the G7 Outreach Summit in Canada's Kananaskis. Prime Minister Modi held productive exchanges with G7 leaders on key global challenges and shared aspirations for a better planet. Other leaders of Australia, Brazil, Mexico, South Africa, South Korea, Ukraine and heads of international organizations, United Nations, World Bank convened for a collective commitment to addressing global challenges and promoting common values. France will host the next G7 Leaders Summit at the Alpine Spa resort town of Evian-les-Bains, bordering Switzerland on the shores of Lake Geneva. Evian already hosted the G7 in 2003. Prime Minister Narendra Modi met Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney on the sidelines of the 51st G7 Leaders Summit in Kananaskis. Prime Minister Modi complimented Carney and the Canadian government for successfully hosting the G7 summit. Both leaders held discussions on a wide range of issues. In a joint remark, Prime Minister Modi said that India has kept the foundation in G20 for global good and it should be taken forward at the G7 as well. Prime Minister Modi said India and Canada are connected by a strong belief in democracy, freedom and the rule of law. Both leaders looked forward to working closely to add momentum to the India-Canada friendship in areas such as trade, energy, space, clean energy, critical minerals, fertilizers and other areas that offer immense potential in this regard.
पिछले दिनों G20 समिट की अध्यक्षता के रूप में भारत ने विश्व के लिए अनेक उपकारक ऐसे इनिशिएटिव लिए हैं। आज G7 के अंदर G20 में भारत ने जो मजबूत नींव रखी है उसको एक प्रकार से नए स्वरूप में G7 में उसके एग्जीक्यूशन की दिशा में ले जाने में एक बहुत बड़ा अवसर है और भारत इस अवसर का उपयोग ग्लोबल गुड के लिए करने के लिए हमेशा इच्छुक रहा है, आगे भी इच्छुक रहेगा।
Prime Minister Modi said that India and Canada relations are very important in many ways. Many Canadian companies have investments in India. The people of India also have a huge investment on Canadian soil.
लोकतांत्रिक मूल्यों को समर्पित कनाडा और भारत मिलकर के लोकतंत्र को मजबूत करना होगा, मानवता को मजबूत करना होगा, हमारे रिसोर्सेज का ऑप्टिमम यूटिलाइजेशन कर करके मानव जात के कल्याण के काम में कैसे ला सकते हैं उस दिशा में हम प्रयास करते रहेंगे। और मुझे विश्वास है कि प्रधानमंत्री जी के चुनाव के बाद मुझे पहली बार मिलने का मौका मिला है, तो इस चुनाव के भव्य विजय के लिए भी मैं उनको बधाई देता हूं और आने वाले कालखंड में उनके साथ भारत और कनाडा मिलकर के अनेक क्षेत्रों में प्रगति करेंगे।
Canadian Prime Minister also said that India's presence at the G7 summit is a testament to the importance of Prime Minister Modi's leadership. He added that Canada stands with India in its fight against terrorism.
It's a great honor to host you at the G7. India has been coming to the G7, I believe, since 2018 in Biarritz with our French partners, and it's a testament to the importance of your country, to your leadership, and to the importance of the issues that we look to tackle together, from energy security, from the energy transition that you're helping to lead, to the future of artificial intelligence, to the fight that we have against transnational repression, against terrorism, against...
Later, addressing media, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney said that both India and Canada have agreed to fully restore diplomatic ties and appoint new high commissioners to strengthen bilateral ties.
First thing. Secondly, in terms of the bilateral relationship, which is your question, I think the meeting today was important, but I would describe it as foundational, as a necessary first step, an exchange of views, frank, open exchange of views around law enforcement, transnational repression as two examples, an agreement to provide the necessary foundations to begin to rebuild a relationship based on mutual respect, sovereignty, trust. And that begins with what was agreed, you asked for concrete, which is that we will move to appoint high commissioners again. And let me just finish by putting that in context, which is there are very deep ties of people and businesses between Canada and India.
Canada and India have agreed to restore high commissioners in both countries. The announcement came after the two leaders met on the sidelines of the G7 summit. Indian Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri said that these steps will boost India-Canada ties. He added that other areas of discussion between the two leaders included AI, critical minerals and trade.
The Prime Ministers agreed to take calibrated steps to restore stability to this very important relationship. And the first of these steps that was agreed on was to restore high commissioners to each other's capitals at an early date. Other diplomatic steps will follow in due course. The two Prime Ministers also agreed to resume senior and working level mechanisms and discussions in a host of areas related to trade, to people contact and connectivity, all of them intended to bring greater momentum to the relationship.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Canada visit concluded on Wednesday, calling the visit fruitful. Prime Minister Modi on social media platforms said, and I quote, concluding a productive Canada visit, thankful to the Canadian people and government for hosting a successful G7 summit, which witnessed fruitful discussions on diverse global issues. We remain committed to furthering global peace, prosperity and sustainability. Unquote. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is set to arrive in Croatia, marking a historic and strategically significant visit that underscores India's deepening engagement with Central and Eastern Europe. DD India's Jessica Taneja sent us this report from Zagreb.
Coming on the heels of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's participation in the G7 summit, the engagements in Zagreb will extend beyond traditional bilateral pleasantries and serve as a strategic exploration of how Croatia fits into India's expanding European vision. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's arrival in Croatia marks a significant milestone. It will be the first visit by an Indian Prime Minister since this Adriatic nation gained independence in 1991. And as India and the European Union seek to conclude a potential free trade agreement before this year ends, partners like Croatia not only provide critical leverage, but also important logistical pathways. Prime Minister Modi is scheduled to hold bilateral discussions with Croatian Prime Minister Andrej Plenković and also meet President Zoran Milanović. These discussions are expected to cover a wide range of topics and present a vital opportunity to broaden bilateral cooperation across various sectors, including trade, innovation, defence, ports, shipping, science and technology, cultural exchanges, as well as workforce mobility. Croatia, an EU and NATO member, offers political stability and a growing economy. With 2.9% GDP growth in the first quarter that has often outpaced the EU average, it holds significant cultural and strategic relevance that resonates in New Delhi. Its consistent support for India's aspiration for a permanent seat at the UNSC and its advocacy for India's membership in the Nuclear Suppliers Group are valued. Discussions will likely address cooperation in international forums on shared challenges such as climate change, counter-terrorism, and regional stability. The visit also highlights the importance of strengthening people-to-people contacts and cultural ties. Building on centuries-old cultural links, the University of Zagreb, with its historic Center for Indology and increasing Indian cultural influence in Croatia through various initiatives, underscores the existing cultural connections. Over the past decade, India's engagement with the continent has expanded significantly beyond its historical focus on major Western European economies. This visit is not an isolated event, but an integral component of India's evolving and increasingly nuanced approach to European diplomacy. Jessica Taneja for DD India in Zagreb, Croatia.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Croatia aims to establish a far more robust and diversified economic partnership with the European Union member. DD India's Jessica Taneja spoke with India's ambassador to Croatia, Arun Goel, about the expectations from the bilateral engagements.
We have with us India's ambassador to Croatia, Arun Goel. Thank you for speaking to DD India and taking out time for us. This will be the first visit by an Indian Prime Minister to Croatia since it gained independence in 1991. Tell us about the importance of this visit and what all can we expect.
Jessica, we need to go slightly older history. First Croatian kingdom was set up in 925 AD by King Tomislav. Thereafter, the Croatians got their own nation in 1991. So they have a history of a dream not being fulfilled for more than 1,050 years. Today there are 3.8 million Croatians in Croatia, and slightly more than that, 4 million Croatians are across the world, be it US, Germany, Australia, everywhere. They are a very closely knit community. Their dream, the aspiration, got fulfilled in 1991. Now this is the first visit by Indian Prime Minister to Croatia. So this is being eagerly looked forward to by Croatians both within Croatia and outside Croatia. So in the world order, which is undergoing profound change at this moment, of course they are a member of EU. They are looking forward to be on the global stage, and visit by Indian Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi helps them to project themselves to be on the global stage and of importance. So that's the way Croatians look at it.
And what are the discussions that the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi will have with his counterparts, the Croatian Prime Minister, and as well as with the President? What can you tell us about that?
See, we have very warm and cordial relationship with Croatia. But first visit by Prime Minister of India to Croatia puts Balkans in a different perspective of high importance in India's foreign policy. This, I'm sure, is going to put India-Croatia relations on a different trajectory. So when the two leaders meet, they have one-to-one talk. It's not merely what is on agenda today, but more will flow out of it when that bond starts happening. So we should be looking forward to a very productive exchange of not merely the goods and services, but of high-tech personnel in the decades to come. Because Croatia has done more innovations as compared to their size. And Indian manpower is also, as you know, world respected. So we are having, for example, an agreement. There's going to be a program of cooperation in the field of science and technology. Croatians have been eagerly looking forward to it. So this will set the two countries' existing science technology systems, materials, information, the personnel, which will have exchange of young researchers thereafter. Similarly, in the field of agriculture, the agreement which is likely to be signed, that is going to bring the research and development in agriculture and allied fields. 30 fields approximately have been enumerated, where there will be close exchange of materials, research, information and personnel.
Right. And as you tell us about the engagements that are planned, an interesting turn of events as well. Before this year ends, India and the European Union are expected to finalize a free trade agreement. And Croatia, being both a NATO and an EU member, is quite an important and a vital partner when it comes to various sectors of cooperation. How do you see Croatia playing an important role when it comes to India-EU FTA, and where does it fit in the picture?
Croatia is a member of EU, also Eurozone and Schengen. So visit by Honorable Prime Minister and the interaction between the two leaders is going to help us find a reliable partner in the EU, and will help India to push the FTA with EU faster and more meaningful. So after all, when you are negotiating, you need friends. So this is going to be, I'm sure this is going to be a very good asset. When both the leaders meet, they talk to each other, they have the bonding. So we'll have a strong partner in Croatia, in EU.
Right, and we also noticed that the University of Zagreb has a Department of Indology. There are a lot of cultural exchanges as well. The relevance of Sanskrit also can be seen in Croatia. What more can we expect in terms of cultural ties between the two nations? We know that yoga is quite popular here as well. What all have you seen that has been so popular when it comes to Indian culture and our other exchanges? What can you tell us about that?
See, if we look at the exchange between the people of Croatia and people of India, it goes back many centuries. Around 1530 to 1540, what we know as Dubrovnik in the local language, in Latin it's Ragusa. So they had a town Sobras in Goa. So there were 12,000 people there in 16th century. And in 1560s, they built a church in the name of Saint Braz. It's just the Saint Blaise, who is known as the protector of Dubrovnik. Thereafter, in the 18th century, a Croat missionary, Carmelite missionary, he produced first book on Sanskrit grammar. That was the period when Europeans had developed interest in Indian culture, and Sanskrit language being the main, as you know, of the Indian culture. So they were looking at the linkages amongst European languages and with the Indian language with Sanskrit, so which led to the saying of Indo-European group of languages. So the exchange of culture, the mutual respect for each other is centuries old. It's in that continuation we should be seeing the popularity of yoga here in Croatia. So as on today, about 10,000 Croatians practice yoga almost daily. There are 250 yoga studios, and there are about 25 Ayurvedic studios. There are restaurants, high-end restaurants, which are serving plant-based food. I recently went to Brach Island. There in Bol, there's a high-end plant-based restaurant, and these people who are into Ayurvedic food, they have immense love and respect for Indian culture. They have visited India many times, and they are our true ambassadors here.
Thank you for summing the relationship between India and Croatia for us. Well, you heard from Ambassador Goyal, the relation between India and Croatia dates back to many centuries. And as the Prime Minister is set to arrive in Croatia, there'll be more that we get for you from the city of Zagreb. This is Jessica Taneja for DD India in Zagreb.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Croatia will make him the first Indian Prime Minister to visit Croatia since the two countries established formal ties in 1991. DD India's Jessica Taneja tells us what is expected during Prime Minister's arrival in Zagreb.
In few hours from now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will arrive here in Zagreb, where he will be welcomed by the Indian community. He will also meet with Prime Minister of Croatia, Andrej Plenković. After that, he's also scheduled to meet with the President, Zoran Milanović. These engagements will be crucial to increase bilateral trade as well as other cultural connects, as well as Croatia being an important partner for India in Europe. Since this is the first visit of any Indian Prime Minister ever since Croatia gained independence in 1991, this will be a historical milestone as the Prime Minister reaches here, and his engagements then continue throughout the evening.
Jessica Taneja also tells us the importance and significance of this visit, since it's the first visit by an Indian Prime Minister since the Adriatic nation gained independence.
An important visit by the Indian Prime Minister, because this will be the first by any Prime Minister of India here in Croatia ever since it gained independence in 91. Although the bilateral trade between India and Croatia stands at $300 million, there will be talks that will focus on enhancing trade in various sectors, along with signing MOUs as well later in the day. We will get you all those updates, but important to note that Croatia is both an EU and a NATO member, so both politically and economically stable, and India's expansion towards its engagement with Europe, not just limiting itself to the Western European nations, but also now to Croatia. He was in Cyprus, now in Croatia. India now increasingly looking forward to engage with other European partners as well.
Updates next on the West Asia conflict. Iran and Israel launched new missile strikes at each other on Wednesday as the conflict between the two nations entered the sixth day. Israel's military has said it has struck Iran, deep hitting its nuclear, ballistic and command capabilities. It launched at least 2 waves of strikes targeting missile and drone sites in western Iran. Multiple series of loud explosions were heard across Tehran over the course of the day, while Iranian media reported blasts in Isfahan, which hosts nuclear facilities. Israel said it intercepted most of a barrage of missiles fired from Iran after air raid sirens sounded in Tel Aviv and northern parts of the country. The Israeli military issued 7 missile alerts for various parts of the country since midnight. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said that Israel's campaign seeks to eliminate Iran's nuclear and ballistic missile programs, as well as its axis of terrorism, a reference to Iranian-backed militant groups in the Middle East. He has also not ruled out killing the supreme leader. Israel Foreign Minister Gideon Saar said that regime change is not an objective of this war. It can be a result, but it's not an objective. Iran's Armed Forces Chief of Staff, A. Mousavi, has issued a stark warning to Israeli civilians. In a televised statement, Mousavi urged residents of Tel Aviv and Haifa to evacuate immediately, citing imminent punitive operations against Israel. Meanwhile, Iran's Revolutionary Guards say that they have launched retaliatory strikes on Israeli air bases, which they claim have been used to launch attacks on Iranian territory. Tensions in the region remain dangerously high. Amid the Iran and Israel conflict tensions, US President Donald Trump called for Iran's unconditional surrender and warned that US patience was wearing thin. Trump claimed that the US knows the exact location of Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, calling him an easy target, but added that he won't be taken out, at least for now. Trump also asserted that the U.S. controls the skies over Iran and praised the effectiveness of U.S.-made weaponry, though stopped short of directly naming Israel. The U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem will be shut from Wednesday through Friday due to the security situation in the region and to comply with Israeli guidance. The U.S. State Department said in a statement that the U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem will be shut given the security situation and in compliance with the Israel Home Front Command guidance. This includes the consular sections in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. President Donald Trump met with his National Security Council on Tuesday after calling for Iran's surrender. The embassy statement said there was no current announcement about helping Americans leave the crisis area. The Indian Embassy in Tel Aviv has issued an advisory for nationals in Israel to stay vigilant and follow safety protocols. In the advisory, it is said that Indians intending to leave should use land crossings and register with the embassy for assistance. The Embassy of India has also activated its helpline numbers 24/7 to provide assistance to Indian nationals. Those needing help or information can call on the telephone numbers on your screen right now, 972-54-7520-711 and 972-54-327-8392. And one can also email at the address given here, cons1.telaviv@mea.gov.in. In addition, Indian nationals who remain in Israel and have not yet registered with the embassy have been strongly urged to do so via the registration portal indembassy.gov.in/Indian_national_reg. And that's all for this edition of DD India Live. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Tanvi Taneja from all of us here in New Delhi. Thank you for watching. Namaskar.